Hello everybody, this is James Diboe on Discovering Season 5, dedicated to original people, and we got a special guest in today, Mr. Goldmark. How you doing, Mark?
Yes, James. Everything blessed, everything
good.
Carpathetical. How are you, my brother?
I'm good. Good to have you on. You know, we supposed to get you on a while ago, but you know, people get busy as they do.
It's been a while coming.
Yeah. So what we're going to deal with your timeline today, you know, you're into your gold teeth, basically.
Yeah.
You know, you sell gold teeth, you make gold teeth.
Yeah.
You know, so we're going to deal with the timeline plus your business behind it as well, where it's been from the past. Also, you've suffered with sickle cell, also, you know, and not DJ, you were MC.
Yeah.
Goldmark, the MC.
I was a little bit younger,
yeah. That's it. So we're going to speak on a couple of different things as well, and then near the end we'll speak on the importance of African history. So just to begin with, where did all the gold teeth? And I know you're from Manchester, isn't it?
Yeah, originally born, raised in Manchester, adopted Scouser from I was young, came up in the care system, so I moved about quite a little bit. But that's how I ended up in Liverpool. I suppose the gold thing, from a young man, you know, hip-hop culture, it was more about fashion and, you know, on the cheap. We didn't have money. We were quite poor, you know. So I remember sewing Lacoste badges onto jumpers and this, that and the third. So it was kind of a creative thing where I started making African medallions, you know, black pendants. I don't know if you remember them, because I'm a bit older than you, but...
Medallions?
Yeah. Public Enemy days, you know, going back there. So in school, I used to sell them, get a few...
Gold medallions you're talking about?
No. Just leather and wood.
Oh, I'm thinking then later the platinum medallions, Nas was rocking and QB and all that one. Yeah.
This is when I was, you know, maybe 13, 14.
Right.
You know, long time ago. So... always been a creative person, was into graffiti as a child, you know, because I suppose we kind of came up in the polemic stages, the first stages of the hip hop culture. I wouldn't say the first, but you know, when it hit our shores, and I just kind of...
You were on the hip hop scene early.
Yeah, from day dot type of thing. So in terms of a creative side, that's where I kind of started to dig jewellery. You had man like Slick Rick, Big Daddy Kane, you know, with all these big, you call truck jewels and some big gold chains. So that was my thing, you know. You needed that big gold chain and this, that and the third. But like I say, we grew up very poor. Things were different back then. So I suppose that's where my interest in gold came from. You know, I just had
sort of like when you're saying about hip hop, because I always picture like back in the 80s, the gold, like Rakim, you know, what was this, Eric B. and Rakim, yeah. You know, people like that, everyone was always, it's always about the gold before the platinum came in and stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's part of I suppose it's part of ghetto culture, I suppose it's part of the underground outlaw scene, you know, where you are not flaunting your wealth, but you're showing, you know, it's kind of a measure of success. You know, the cars, the gold, this was before bricks and mortar and anybody had a clue about, you know, properties and this, that and the third, you know, as long as you had your bits about you and you know, that's what made you get X, Y and Z type of thing if you were the man known to be making the money and what have you, whether that came through creative, you know, endeavours or sometimes maybe unlawful endeavours, so to speak. But yeah, I always had a great interest in jewellery and a want to emulate these people who I looked up to, and you know, like that. Yeah.
So, so remember you became an MC. When you was an MC, was this around the time when you were listening to hip hop first time, or
No. I suppose, you know,
come across?
My life took a certain twist when I was a young man, so I ended up places that a lot of us could end up or whatever. So one of my kind of avenues to keep my head good or whatever, I used to write. I suppose it was poetry at first. Not even spoken word. I love words, you know, and I love wordplay, this, that, and the third. So I'd have my lyric book, and so that's when it started. I used to write bars, and this is before I even touched studio or hit over a beat or whatever. And then I came to the free world, and I had this catalogue of lyrics, and again, I'm a creative person, so this is where, you know, I took myself and thought, well, let me just concentrate on this for a while, and I got a lot out of it, you know, the creativity of doing what I was doing. And we had a little set, you know, a few man. You'd have your DJ and your sound man, and we were always around, you know, the big sounds, you know. So for Liverpool, it was one a penny. I think it was 24 Carat Go, was it 24K posse, or, you know, there's a few different posses, reggae and hip hop. So when we go to the blues, or, you know, when town had finished and you go to the after event, there'd be a little huddle of us, and we'd all be waiting for the mic. You know,
this is in Manchester, isn't it?
No, this is here, bro.
Oh, here, yeah. Okay.
And so that's kind of what took me down the road of music, to where, you know, I started taking it seriously. People took me seriously. I suppose my confidence was overshadowed by people's interest in what I was doing. They thought I was good, and I didn't really think I was that good, and, you know, so ended up making an album at Lipper. I had an engineer, good guy, used to do my beats for me and all that, and he was teaching at Lipper at the time, so I ended up going into Lipper. You know, just the one mixing desk, I think, was £500,000, so it was millions and millions of pounds worth of equipment around me. And so from that, that's when I started recording hard every day, you know, spend hours and hours and hours on the music.
Now, when we see music, I wanted to ask you about the music. What style of music was it? Because I remember 20 years ago when you were MCing. Yeah. It was kind of like garage or jungle.
It was garage, bro. It was garage.
Okay.
But I'd come from before garage, so
right.
My style was hip hop. The bars were hip hop, but, you know, well, before that it was jungle.
So when I was jungle,
a little, you know, I'd be in London, we'd be going to the jungle raves, all the big MCs there, and so it was a mixture of all of that. And obviously, I've come up off hip hop, big reggae scene. Because really, the man who had the sound systems, there wasn't that many hip hop sound systems. There was collectives and little crews who used to DJ in the nightclubs at town. But in terms of having a set, you know, all the equipment, it was the ragaman, the reggae sounds. So I'd always get put on to those because I could. Well, I suppose the best word for what we could understand is toasting. So I used to toast as well as rap.
Yeah.
So I'd be on the reggae sounds, and I'd, you know, like that. So that's where the kind of...
Yeah. Also, you know, what was it? I mean, about 2 weeks ago, we had a guest on called Carl Collins. He was a DJ also. He suffered with sickle cell, you know, through his life. I understand you go through that yourself, Mark. Yeah, you know, if you want to speak a little bit on it, because obviously it's always going to affect you in whatever way,
most definitely.
Whether you're into music, life itself.
Lifelong.
You know, how was that like from growing up with sickle cell?
You know, it was very under-researched. The English doctors or the doctors of this land, you know, they didn't have a clue about it. They really didn't. You know, because it didn't affect the majority here. So anything that doesn't affect the majority, you know, I suppose developing medicines and teaching their people, you know, it costs a lot of money. So because it only afflicted a certain sector of the community, there was no money there, there was no research. So even as a young buck, you know, I'd know more about this thing than the doctors that I'd be speaking to. So I'd suffer with crisis. You know, you go into a pain crisis. Normally it'd last about 3 days, could last up to a week, those times. But no, I didn't even know what I was going through. So, you know, they'd say it was this, they'd say it was that, send you for tests, this, that, and the third. But long story short, it's just that these are the...
I remember Prodigy of Mobb Deep.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, man, I mean, he's probably a person who I've learned the most of sickle cell,
right,
because of the amount of different interviews he's done.
Well, yeah, he used to
seizures,
yeah,
the seizures.
Yeah.
Did you ever?
Yeah.
So seriously,
but mini seizures. Now, there's a few different types of sickle cell. People think sickle cell is just one disease. It's not. It's numerous. So you got sickle cell disease, sickle cell anemia, sickle cell trait. Then you got I can't even pronounce some of the things, thalassemia, and there's all different types of levels. But the problem that they've got in terms of a health aspect is to get a full understanding of your blood works. If you're suffering with this thing, you've got to have a blood test, what they do on the astronauts before they go to space, because the blood acts differently when it's outside the body than when it's inside the body. So for it to know what it's doing inside the body is near on impossible, because you're taking the blood outside the body to do the tests. So it's a bit of a, it's a bit of a blag, really, in terms of how they treated it. They've become a little bit better today, but that's because it's affecting different people, because we intermix now more than originally or whatever. So sickle cell is traveling to different ethnicities that it would never before.
Yeah. So
my understanding as a young buck was it only kind of affected African people and Oriental people of Oriental background.
Yeah.
Sickle cell was actually a natural adaptation of the human body to fight against malaria. That's what sickle cell actually is.
Wow. So you explain what you've just said then. Like, so sickle cell can fight off malaria.
Yeah, because the shape of your blood cell is in the shape of a sickle, like a crescent moon.
Wow.
So it must be that it can't carry the malaria as good as a full blood cell can.
Interesting.
I'm not fully
that's very interesting,
knowledgeable on
because
it, but that's
usually with malaria, because that's everyone's getting malaria. I mean, even the people of that country, they're immune to, but they still get malaria.
Still get it.
So maybe they don't.
Death rate
some might not.
It's crazy.
I know a few people in Gambia who told me they got malaria.
Yeah.
Obviously, they survived with it.
Yeah.
But really ill.
Yeah.
They were really ill, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with the sickle cell anyway, because last time Carl was on, he was mentioning about the Greeks or the Mediterranean people. They have a certain type of sickle cell.
Okay.
And there's other ones, like you just said, in Asia as well.
Yeah.
There's not too many people speak on Asian sickle cell. No. Is that the same as African or totally different?
I would imagine it's probably the same, because a disease is a disease. Now, depending on your ethnic makeup, I suppose, would depend on how that would affect you. For me personally, it's affected me severely, and because there was no education on it, so I wasn't told anything as a child how to deal with the sickle cell, to stay hydrated, to don't do high impactive sports, or if you're going to do it, with, where you're looking out for the telltale signs of he could be going into a crisis, or it could be affecting him in a certain way. Because really, sickle cell in a nutshell is pain. Your body experiences levels of pain that are up there. On the 1 to 10 level, you'll be on a 9 and a 10 sometimes. And like I say, me personally, I suffered, 3 days or whatever. As I got older, it started to affect me less. So I'd have less crisis. But when I did get crisis, it'd last for a lot longer. Now, like we're talking about prodigy, the average age of somebody who suffers with sickle cell is 40s.
40s?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
average
your
age.
Mortality rate. You reach 40s, and then, you may not have in my understanding, you may not have much longer. That's the type of lifespan you get from it. So there's still a lot to be learned about sickle cell. There should be more funding regarding it. And now that it's affecting different people, there has been more funding put in place to try and understand this disease.
What I always wondered about with sickle cell, so when we were living in Africa before they came to the Caribbean or America, I wonder how they were treating sickle cell then, because...
Well, I don't think they were. in the sense of, like I say, it's like an environmental, natural.
Because they always have healing for something.
Oh yeah,
something. There's always something that the closest thing you find.
You know, the great late Dr. Sebi, it's alleged, and I say alleged, I think it's proved, you know, that he cured sickle cell. He cured many diseases, you know. He was took to court for saying he cured AIDS, you know, and he won that court case. You know, he could prove to them. So we're up against big pharma, you know, $1 trillion industry.
Yeah.
So if I come out with a bunch of herbs that we just take from the forest or whatever and say, yo, this is gonna cure X, Y, and Z, they're not going to be into that because that's going to take their money away, you know. So it's a funny one, but you know, I'm of the belief of there's no disease on this earth that there isn't a cure for.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
just you've got to know which herbs and how, whatever, this, that, and the third.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, and definitely. I think our ancestors were obviously more knowledgeable on these herbs and what they do. You know, I listened to some of the kind of, for want of a better word, vloggers out of Jamaica, you know, where you've still got the bush doctor, you've still got the man, you won't, you know, because the healthcare system is, you got to pay and this, that, and the third. You go to the mountains or to the bush and collect 2 roots and 2 herbs and this, that, and the third, and that sorts that. You know, fertility problems, that sorts that, or gastro problems, that sorts that. And so, you know, it's even big pharma, when they want, you know, they go to the forest to try and patent this plant or whatever, you know. So it's an age-old thing in terms of natural remedies being took to the lab. Now we've turned it into a tablet, and you know, somewhere along that line, you've actually lost the organic healing, the
true
natural way of how we're supposed to deal with it. So
yeah, well, I see this when I ventured out and visit indigenous peoples, and I'm trying to study like how they heal people.
Yeah,
and everything is just natural.
Yeah,
everything original. You know, and it's all about consuming.
Yeah,
it's not about waste. Everything is intact.
Yeah, because I think when you take somebody out of his natural environment, you're doing them a disservice already.
Yeah.
So you've lost your climate. You know what I mean? You've lost your food source. It's a common fact now that, you know, we eat junk, don't we, in the West? It's a lot of processed, dead,
not getting no fresh water, nothing, no fresh meat.
So, you know, because a lot of my family say to me, we're going to send you here, we're going to send you there. Or I say, well, no, actually, our health service is better than theirs now. It might be back in the day, it used to be, when certain people are afflicted with certain sicknesses, you know, you need the sun. You know, you need that fruit that's been kissed by the sun, you know. Give yourself 4 weeks of that and see how your illness is after that. And I'm sure 90% of us would say, feel better.
Yeah.
I'm a little better or whatever. But when you've got, you know, some of these, because a lot of students of Sebi and the like, you know, they're still curing some of these things that people say can't be cured, you know.
Well, there's an interesting one. I find when I go to hot countries, my bones feel stronger naturally.
Yeah.
Within the first day. Yeah. It's like it's just giving you that reminder.
Yeah.
So with sickle cell, does it make any difference in the sun or in a cold country?
I'd say most definitely, because it's when, as a child, you'd get to, I think, is it November, you know, when it starts to get cold or whatever, you know, that's when my bone system would start to break down and feel it.
In the cold?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And so as soon as the sun comes and you're in the heat or whatever, you're not afflicted with those same problems. Now, whether you're afflicted with different problems through hydration or whatever, I don't know. And like I say, you know, I'm not at all knowledgeable on the matter. I can only see it or say it as what I've experienced and what I've been through. And, you know, health is wealth. That's all you've got. You know, it's one of the major blessings of time and health. And we don't appreciate that until it gets took from us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you had a business behind the Gold Teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where was your network in different cities? And
so long story short, how the Gold Teeth came about, I got my first gold teeth as a young buck at 18 years of age in the dentist. So they've been here a long time or whatever. So I lost a few along the way or whatever. So we got a street here. It's quite famous for high-end doctors and dentists, Rodney Street, Liverpool.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to see this lady. She wanted £90 just to talk to her for half an hour. So I went to talk to her, and then she told me, you know, it costs, I think it was £600 plus per tooth.
Per tooth.
Yeah, so I wanted all mine doing. So I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. I wasn't making money. I was just still doing my little food businesses or whatever I had going on. And I says, and I'm a man where I'll always think, you know, I wonder how they do that. You know, I've got that inquisitive mind. I want to know how people make stuff or whatever. So long story short, just YouTube, you know, University of YouTube, went on, seen how hard it was. Well, I could do that.
Well, I remember you chefing days. I've tasted some of your food, man.
Yeah, because that was my first business. So I had a few business. I remember when we met in the place there.
That's it.
And after I left there, I opened Mango Grove. So I had outside catering, sandwich rounds.
Mobile.
Was mobile. I'd do the festivals. Africa,
I remember.
Yeah, you know, the international arts festivals. I did a lot. But again, health, you know, the impactive nature of the food game is very hard. But the money was good.
Definitely.
So I did that for a while. And yeah, I got to a stage where I think it may have been even 09, 08. I think we had a recession.
Yeah, 08.
Yeah, so, you know, my profit margins got slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. The work didn't ease up. It was still the same levels of work. I said, you know, it's...
wasn't something to stay in.
No, I've got to find something else to do. So I sat there pondering, you know, wondering what am I going to do? Because I'm a father. I've got a big family, you know, 8 children, 2 grandchildren. I got to defend my bills type of thing or whatever. Certain things that were open to me as a child, you know, morally, and I would never involve in those type of stuff ever again. So, you know, for the road youths who's listening or whatever, there's no retirement plan. It might be all good up until you're 21 and you can do a little bit of this and that, but what you're going to do when you're 25, 30, 35, 40, when you've got 5 children or you've got this, you know, you still need money. So my thing was, what am I going to do? So like I said, I went to see this lady at Rodney Street. She told me the prices. I thought, wow. I learned how to do the basics through YouTube and trial and error. You know, lost a bit of money and invested a tiny bit of money, and then realised, you know, I loved it because, like I said, I've always had that creative side. But the equipment for this industry, you know, you can spend millions of pounds on things, or, you know, you can. So I just went in at the bottom, did what I could afford, learnt bit by bit by bit by bit, and then I learnt one day, you know, they say you're not a true jeweler until you've had 10,000 hours at the bench. So I thought, whoa, 10,000 hours at the bench, that's a lot of time, you know, I've got a long way to go. So legally I said, well, let me just see what the colleges are saying, because obviously I'm kind of like classed as a mature student now. So all he could offer me was an apprentice of £90 a week, and it would take 4 years to complete this course just to be able to start the next course. And I thought, well, I haven't got that type of time. So I thought I'll just do it raw diggy how I was doing it. Did it that way, and no looking back. You know, it just flew. I just went from. So I had my Facebook pages and whatever. Never made a pound. Worked hard at editing and getting this done and that done. Did it for 6 months. Never made a pound. My daughter told me about Instagram. Within a week of having an Instagram account,
seen the difference.
My inbox was full. Yo, can you do this? Can you do that? Well, there's a bit of fake it till you make it at the beginning. You know, it was a bit like, well, I'll have a go, whatever. So there's a little bit of embarrassment, a few, but yeah, just climbed quickly, and because it was quite it's niche, but there was a gap. I saw the gap in the market. There was nobody doing it. Not in Liverpool anyway. Birmingham, man, you know, they've always been known for gold teeth. It's and you know, the further you go down south, you know, the more you are in touch with like the A1 fashion. You know, as Liverpool, we're quite in the north, we're quite far away. You know, you got that disconnect or whatever.
So, man, I wanted to ask you, because you're born in Manchester, and did you come here when you were young?
Yeah.
How old, like?
Why?
Because you still got the accent, so that's why I'm asking.
So,
how young?
Know, me, I believe if you, as a Scouser, you have to born and grow with Scousers to have a Liverpool accent. I've lived here more than I've lived anywhere in my life. So
how old would you say he was?
Probably about 8, 9, 10.
Okay, and then I'm assuming that around them ages, okay, you were here, but you were going back and forth. Did you have contact, because you knew you were born in Manchester, you had friends or family out there?
When I first came here, I'd catch the train back to Manchester every weekend.
When you were like 8, 9?
Yeah, when I first came here, I was
you were going back to see your family members or friends?
Or just on road or whatever, you know, because I hated it. I hated the fact that, you know, you get uprooted from your friends and you move, but that was kind of my childhood. There was a lot of moving around. And I took that into my adulthood. I don't know if it's the Irish in me, you know, that traveller mentality where I'm just happy to just keep travelling or whatever. So, yeah, I believe the Liverpool accent isn't something you can just acquire. I used to see lads come here on the summer holidays and come back with a Scouse accent after 7 weeks. Do you know what I mean? But I've been here, probably lived in Liverpool for 35 years in total. Do you know what I mean? And
well, I see people pick up the slang, but the accent is hard to. Yeah,
now I can do a Liverpool. Don't get it twisted. I can do North End. I can do South.
Okay,
but I won't do it now. Right. But yeah, it's. But Liverpool's a place. You know, it was a place where I've always loved. It's obviously not the infrastructure of the place. It's the people. You know, the people accept you. Well, I say Liverpool. I'm a bit of a Toxtonian. I don't really come out of the ends. I've always stayed in Toxteth, was safe there. You know, it's so I never travelled too much out of Toxteth.
But Liverpool, like, it's a totally different place than, well, as you can see, Manchester, London, anywhere, you know. Now, this is where, like, I'll speak to you a lot about Pan-Africanism. And which is going to lead me to the next question. Okay. The importance of African history.
Yeah.
And I'll always ask everyone. So I know you got your background in that you were very familiar with Pan-Africanism.
Yeah, most definitely.
Probably for a long time.
Most definitely, yeah.
And I was wondering, like, where did you first get into African history?
Well, I'll tell you the truth, bro. It was in a church.
A church?
I was a very small child reading the Bible. So I used to read the Bible. Old Testament rather than a New Testament. New Testament's a God of love. Old Testament's a vulnerable God. I've never been a Christian. Never called myself a Christian. But through my childhood issues, that's where I ended up with church people and blah blah blah. So I'd sit there in this thing and I'd read this thing. So I'd read these stories about this man. He was obviously in a hot country. He was obviously a man of colour. Just down to the palm trees, the descriptive words in this book or whatever. And then I'd look to my right and I'd see a picture of a white Jesus with piercing blue eyes. And we all know that's Caesar Borgia, whatever he's called, you know, the nephew of Leonardo.
Oh, Michelangelo, one of them, paintings,
he's the nephew of him.
Yeah.
So I was like, this makes no sense, you know. I'm like, this is definitely a hot place, but this dude's so... You know, it was a bit of a, what's going on here? So I think, you know, my ethnicity is, I'm half Irish, half, well, say Jamaican. May as well say African, you know, I'm half Irish, half African. So I suppose it started from there. My want and need to try and understand how is this, how's it come about, you know, that the man who's depicted in this picture doesn't kind of resemble who I'm reading about, you know, in this book. So I think that's what sparked the thing of a want and need to know, who are we, where do we come from? And, you know, the Abrahamic religions, they all teach us, you know, we're from Adam and Eve. So if we're all from Adam and Eve, then how's there so many different colours and this, that and the third?
Okay.
But I'm of the belief of, you know, you say African history, well, I'll spin it back to you and say, well, African history is the history.
World history.
That is history, you know, because if we all stemmed from Adam and Eve, and if we all stemmed from the one place or whatever, in their viewpoint or whatever, then we're all out of Africa, you know.
You know about Reno Harishidi, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, soon it'll be a year of his death, August the 2nd.
Yeah.
Coming up soon.
Yeah.
And he always repeats himself when he explains the 3 phases of history which we must understand, and we mustn't confuse them. First of all, Africa being the birthplace of humanity.
Yeah.
You know, the first peoples. The second is Africans bringing the seeds of civilization to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
The third phase is where we're captured into slavery.
Yeah.
So as long as we deal with the 3 phases, we'll never mix nothing up.
Okay.
So whatever comes after slavery, that's a whole nother phase.
Yeah.
And that led to, you know, we don't even, well, people who go through the Caribbean, you haven't got your African surname. You know, they took away our language, they took away our culture. And, you know, that's why I respect certain places that still have the Pan-Africanism. Yeah. Because the closest thing we're going to get back. I feel Pan-African is a very... And speaking of Pan-Africanism, I went to Manchester a few times to see some great guests on there. Umar Johnson. Yeah. I remember going to see him, and that was one of the best talks I've seen. What about yourself? Was you going to a lot of these events?
No, I was kind of more of a keyboard warrior, for want of a better word. My situation is this, you know, there's many, not many, but there's a few different, for want of a better word, genres of Pan-Africanism and belief systems.
Different sects. Yeah, that's right there. Yeah.
So, you know, I worked hard under the banner of UK RBGs, you know, it's kind of obviously Marcus Garvey, kind of a Garveyite, you know, I was of a belief, you know, let's get back to Africa, let's get back to where we need to be, and let's take what we've learned in the West and let's still have something ticking over in the West to pay for our endeavours in the motherland type of thing. So it was more online, really, you know, where
researching on the internet.
Yeah, where I'd gain my knowledge, and then
internet very good though.
Yeah, but a couple people who you'd get your phone number and you'd rap with them for hours and they teach you stuff and this. So I had a couple friends in London and this, that and the third. So I was more of a, I suppose, I couldn't say an activist, but through my personal history, I was more for, you know, how we'd been afflicted by the police, by the government, you know, how we're kind of still a commodity in terms of how we're treated, the prison industry that we've got here, you know. So slavery was abolished, yes, but was it abolished? You know,
it's like...
Or did it just turn into a different...
Well, some people looked at, the chains are off us now, so we're free, but the minds wasn't free.
That's right.
The shackles on the mind.
And I believe more than that, you know, because personal circumstances, you know, I know how many of the children get locked up.
Yeah.
I know the disparity in this guy's going up for these charges and gets X amount of years, while this child goes up for these charges and gets X amount of years, you know, and the disparity between them is mind-boggling. and quite blatant.
Very racial.
Yeah.
That's what it is, isn't it?
Quite blatant.
Yeah.
So a man can do all types of heinous stuff to a child, where a youth can just get caught with a few pebbles or a weapon or whatever, and he's doing these years, and this guy's got probation type thing, and that's just one.
But you know what, though?
Example.
It tells you the people who run things must be a bit sick.
Most definitely.
Because why would you know, there's certain things that, you know, this is more of a priority to take care of, you know.
Yeah.
There should be levels of stuff, basically.
So my thing was, you know, it was the injustice of how we're dealt with, where I suppose it kind of brought me around certain people who could teach me about Pan-Africanism, the different things. And then I met what's the best way to describe them? The Kemetic brothers, you know, the brothers who were all on that Egypt's the thing, and they follow Ma'at, you know, and this, that, and the third. So I got into a conversation with Ptah, Hotep, whoever he was or whatever.
Yeah.
And the brother says, you're what your mama is. You're white. And I didn't want to disrespect nobody in that respect, but I got called the N-word from I was a baby.
Yeah.
I got called a black bee from I was a baby. Police ragged me around, ripped my chains off, spat all over me, beat me up from a baby. So, okay, maybe my conjugal DNA may be different than the brothers, but outwardly, we're both N-words to them. I'm no different,
right,
regardless to who gave birth to me.
Yeah, interesting.
Do you know what I mean? So in certain African cultures, you are what your dad is.
The seed of your father, they say,
And then in science, you are what your mum is.
But this is funny of saying that, because it's and also look at Jewish. They say, what is it? If your mother's you're Jewish, if your mother's Jewish,
right.
Arabic, if the father's Arab, you're Arab.
Right. So I didn't, like I say,
it can't be both.
No, man I will put it on them.
Yeah.
On the keyboard, you know, because don't get it twisted. I'm on that Khabib Nurmagomedov, whatever he's called. You know, send me a location. I'm good for that. So I used to get a bit heated, but then I realised, you know, this is the internet. You know, these geeks can hide behind the internet. I've done road. I've done the front linear all my life. I've been out there. So for me to get on the computer, I didn't know how to turn a computer on not many years ago. Yeah. So for me to be doing this knowledge on the thing, so I didn't want to disrespect nobody. I feel with people, for want of a better word, but I wanted to, the guy's disrespecting me, so you can't treat disrespect with respect. So, you know, I was trying to put forward that, you know, I've been treated in the same way you've been treated. I've probably been treated worse. I've gone and spent years and done my chunk, you know, as a black man. So I've learned a lot along the way. So, like I say, I didn't want to disrespect them too much, but I'm not having that. You can't say that to me. So it was a bit of a learning curve. So I went away because it was new to me, you know, what he told me. So I went away, and he was actually right. He's actually correct in his thing that in science, you are what the egg is, what your mum is, or whatever your dad adds on your colour, your features, your hair, this, that, and I don't know it the ins and outs of it. I just learned on a basic level.
It's quite deep, that, though, because like you get your features and your hair from your father. I mean, it's not always that case, though.
No.
Because, you know, you can get 4 brothers or 4 sisters, and they might all be different complexions, different hair.
Most def. Well, you only have to come to my house to look at them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
so sometimes science, like, I think we've got to take the best out of science. And anything that's, you know, the Darwinism theory, going deep into evolution, and it takes billions of years for this, and then we came from... from the water to apes, and then to like that type of science, that's complicated. Yeah. Where I'm more with, okay, the science of the DNA said you came from this area 10,000 years ago, or 30,000, or 100,000 years ago, or they found the first people in Africa.
Yeah.
I can connect with this type of science.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to connect with the whole evolution. I think that's too much.
Yeah.
And I think even like, there's no one who lives long enough on this planet to understand billions of years of information.
Most def. And there's a saying, you know.
It's impossible.
There's a saying I can't remember it verbatim, but it was like, don't let your little mind try and grasp the enormity of these issues, because it can't. Your brain ain't, I wouldn't say good enough, but your brain could never comprehend the unseen, the science of it. So, you know, the Egyptians were weeing on wheat to see if they were pregnant. You know, these scientific, the Sumerians were, you know, if you look at some of those glyphs on the Sumerian tablets, your mind would be blown away. So modern science, you know, the Greeks took that from the Egyptians anyway, you know, and the Egyptians, who did they take it from? You know, we got
the Egyptians were influenced from the sub-Saharan African Nubians, Cushites,
right?
You can go to Uganda,
and then you got
you know, so, you know, the influence of Egyptians, as we were saying, you know, they came from sub-Saharan Africa, and even there's connections to Nigeria, Ghana. You know, we can look at scientists and they can say, no, it's impossible that West Africans could have got to Egypt. But then there's figurines found in Ghana, first of all. Nigeria, they have many creation stories. Even my own tribe, the Ijaw tribe.
Okay.
You know, so they'll talk about coming from Kemet.
Which tribe did you say then?
Ijaw tribe of Nigeria, Delta State. Okay. So they have a story, and also the Igbos have a story of that, and they have a story of being the Hebrew Israelites. And the Yoruba have a story of coming from Kemet.
Most def.
Then we can get back to the Dogon. The Dogon people have a story coming from Kemet. You know, so we've got to definitely speak on the Dogon when we're speaking of all this knowledge. You know, the White Dwarf star, and they're just amazing.
Well, they only found the Western scientists or whatever only found this star that the Dogon have known about the other year. I swear it was in the last 5 years that they've only found it's Sirius or Cirrus.
And it boggled the mind that they couldn't understand how these so-called primitive Africans
with no telescope
had this knowledge of astronomy. You know what I mean?
So, you know, we can surmise, you know, that this was ancestrally passed down to them from their forefathers, or, you know, that these people were visited by these people to teach them actually X, Y, and Z. But it's like the layout of Giza, the pyramids or whatever, in line with the stars.
Leo. And
there's something. There's obviously definitely something in it. So science versus, you know, ancestral cultural traditions and oratory stories that, you know, the grannies teach the children or whatever, you know, it's science. You know, I don't know enough about it, but I believe it's about collecting information and you know, negating this information, and then we'll come together and then we'll agree upon the thing, and then it becomes fact, or it becomes science, or whatever. Well, you know, it's two different entities, isn't it? Because when, like you say, you know, if the Dogon knew about this thing that they would have no way of physically seeing with the naked eye, I believe, or with an instrument to see it with the naked eye, but they knew about it. And Western, with all its trillions and millions and technology, have only just found that says everything to me.
It does.
So it's like, I was saying this to somebody else, you know, look how long ago the album came out from Lauryn Hill, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Well, we've got to an age where we've had to go back to the drawing board and relearn everything that we were ever taught. Because, you know, RT used to say question everything, and I thought that was a good little thing. You know, you need to question everything, you know. So in terms of what we've been taught as the standard thing, it's all rubbish. You know, down to your diet, you know, who's the strongest of the animal kingdom? You know, who's those big, strong things like the hippo, the gorilla, the elephant? I never seen a gorilla eat no meat. I never seen a hippo, you know, do certain things. I never seen an elephant yamming on meat and this, that, and the third. So where do you get the protein? How do you get so big and strong? So it's wrong what we've been taught, you know, because I think a brother said the other day, you know, if we were meant to eat, and I'm not vegetarian, I'm not a vegan, I'm not trying to teach anybody anything about dietary things, but food has been a thing of mine, and I went to college for a short time to learn about it. We don't have sharp teeth to rip meat. You know, we weren't created and born with cooking utensils and the ability to light fire like a dragon, if it's a mythological creature or whatever. So where in the animal kingdom do you see them cook their food? You know,
yeah.
If we were supposed to eat meat, why can't we run 70 miles an hour? So, you know, I think, you know, the
most of the peaceful animals, maybe, you know, you can look at they're not meat eaters.
No.
Most peaceful animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, they don't cook the food. It's all eaten raw.
It's always it's one of those things that, I mean, as a person, I've ate meat all my life and that. And
Same.
At the same time, I'm not ignorant though to know that, you know, too much meat, especially, you know, red meat.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't eat pork.
No.
That's one thing I don't eat. I haven't had pork for like about 6 years.
Well,
and I used to like pork, but then it was just little things I was getting onto about it, even the science side of it.
Well,
well.
I'll give you a quick thing of why I don't eat pork allegedly now through religious reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't eat pork before that.
Oh,
so
okay.
A quick story, give you a story of the hypocrisy of what I was dealing with. And that's back to when I used to dig read in the Old Testament. You know, this God would, and Jesus, peace be upon him, you know, I used to like the stories of him lashing over the moneylenders' tables and causing havoc in the temple, and he was an outlaw, basically. And, you know, those are the type of people I kind of respected, you know, in the right ways, you know. So, long story short, we're in the church. I'll never forget the verse, Mark 5, chapter 5, around. And Jesus put the duppy, there was a man, he was afflicted by demons, possessed or whatever you want to call it, and he took these demons and he put them into the pig, and the pig all ran over the cliff and he drowned, okay? And the man was cured. You know, it's the miracles of Jesus or whatever in the Bible. So I've read this, deep this verse or whatever, and I thought, wow, that's a good story. You know, it's like a story or whatever. So I've gone back to the family home, and the ladies brought, like they did on a Sunday, because this was the vicar, that's where I lived in his house or whatever, and he brought the plate of food, and it looked strange to me, you know, just a big hunk of meat, roasted or whatever. I said, what's that? And he said, I was a very young, small boy, you know, maybe 6, 7, I don't know how old I was. I said, what's that? He said, oh, it's pork. I said, what's pork? He said, oh, it's pig. I said, but didn't he just say that in the Bible it says it's a filthy, unclean meat and you mustn't eat it?
Yeah.
He just said that in front of all those people in the thing. Probably got told to shut up and just eat it or whatever. I said, I'm not eating that. I never ate it again from that day. Because in that book it says this meat is filthy and unclean. Not my words, the words of the book. Filthy and unclean, and you mustn't eat it. So I thought, well, look at the hypocrisy of that. Not more than that, not less than an hour ago, he's talking that smack, and now he's serving it, and now we're all supposed to eat it. And
well, I'll tell you what's interesting as well. We're going to pop off the last question before, you know, we finish up on that. Because in the beginning, I remember you saying about, you read the Bible, isn't it? Now, would you convert into Islam in the last...
1996.
1996. So obviously you've read the Quran, isn't it? Yeah. So comparing the two books, because you might get a person who's not read the Bible, he's read the Quran, or vice versa. Comparing the two books, what do you make of it?
Okay, well, we know the similarities between Islam and Christianity, and the one major difference is that God doesn't have a son.
God don't have a son?
A son.
Okay, let's be clear.
You know, before the Nicene Treaty,
325 AD,
there was no Trinity.
Okay.
There was no God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, whatever, you know, the Trinity.
The Trinity, yeah.
So before the Nicene Treaty, there was no...
So what was there just before the Nicaea?
Just God.
Just God, as supreme being.
God as the supreme being, the creator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously the government, for want of a better word, have come together and done the little shegri and got together and planned, and we can use this as a tool. We can use it as a tool in slavery. We can make good slaves with this book. You know, we can have the overseers sitting in the church while we elect a pastor to teach these slaves how to be good slaves. And don't worry about this life. You get in the afterlife.
Interesting.
You know, don't worry about that. So the difference between the two books was I was taught that the Quran is a revelation and it's not been changed one letter. Where the Bible has got hundreds of
multiple
editions,
Bibles.
You know, it's many, many different... And I think
it's about 2,000 versions or more, isn't it?
There you go. So for me, it was like religare. Okay, so religion. Break down the root word of religion. Comes from a Latin word of religare. Religare, mind control. That's what it breaks down to. So I was against religion for a good part of my life. But one yard man said from road, he said to me, he said, nothing wrong with change if it's for the better, you know. Rude boy. He said, nothing's wrong with change unless it's for the better. Because he saw me come from here to there and he rated what I'd done. You know what I mean? So in terms of the Deen of Islam or whatever, you know, it gave me a discipline that where I'd come from, I wouldn't have been able to break the shackles of that.
Yeah, yeah.
That they'd given me and choreographed and all, you know.
Well, kind of, I was just going to mention about the Nation of Islam, for example. Yeah. It always makes me think of this because if we look at the Christianity, and it's controlled by the European. Yeah. And if we look at Islam, now the Arab has a big influence there. Yeah,
because Muhammad, peace be upon him, was of their tribe. He was an Arab. And it was said that the book was going to be given in this language, Arabic. If you understood Arabic as a language, you'd kind of understand that a little bit. Yeah, because it's a very hard language to digress from. What it means is what it means.
Is it connected to like Hebrew, Aramaic?
Well, yeah, that's Semitic. Is it Semitic?
Afro-Asiatic also
type of. Because if you listen to a Jewish person speaking, there, I'm not sure if it's Yiddish or it's the other one or whatever. Oh yeah, very similar. Yeah. In some of the words and whatever, and the cousins, aren't they? If we go off the biblical tale, the cousins, you know, there were the two cousins. One is the Judaism, and the other it was Islam. Yeah, you know.
I mean, for me, like I'm not a religious person. I like to follow African traditions. Yeah. But if I had to choose Islam or Christianity, I'm choosing Islam. Yeah. Because I feel it's more closer to African culture. Yeah. So I'm basing things on which one is closer to African culture. Yeah, well, I'll always base everything.
Well, I think I've heard you say on a previous podcast, you know, the original Arabs were black. Yeah. And to me, I was always of the understanding Arab simply translate to sand dweller. That's the translation of Arab. Saudi Arabia now, Saudia is the family name of the powerful family who they give the power to. So they said, okay, you found oil, do what you're doing, now you can call it Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure if it was Churchill involved in that Balfour Treaty or whatever they did, and you know, they managed to do whatever they're doing, but you know, that's another story. But in terms of Islam, monotheism, one God, you know, there's a brother who's quite prominent on YouTube. He will say to you, you know, we already had Islam before.
But ancient Egyptians didn't eat pork. Yeah. Also, you can see on the walls in Kemet where the Hebrews are coming in and they're being circumcised by the Kemites. So there's a lot of stuff of African culture that is in religion
already.
Yeah. Now, because of the different sects of Christianity, maybe don't do things like circumcision, eat pork, and you know, certain other things.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, James. You know, as a 14-year-old boy, I wore Star David. You know, I was of that line of David, Rasta influence.
The Rasta.
Selassie, you know, he was in the line of David. So when I dig that or whatever, that, you know, because obviously you're looking for identity, you're trying to understand the world of religion, you're trying to understand who you are as a person, and this, that, and the third. So I was heavily into what you'd call today as a Hebrew Israelite. Now, at one time, the Niger Delta or a certain swathe of Africa, it was 2/3 Jewish. 2/3 of Africa, or the Niger, I can't remember if it was Africa or it was the Niger Delta, it was Jewish. You know, so, you know, they say God always has his chosen favourite people, and if they run amok and digress, then he'll choose somebody else, and this, that, and the third. But you know, in the dean of the religion of Islam teaches that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the last messenger. There ain't going to be no more. You know, but I used to deep it. Well, how did the little man in the middle of the jungle, who's still throwing spears at the aeroplanes when he sees them, how did he get the word to him? You know, so that was a bit of a quandary for me to understand that, you know, this religion has been given to the whole of mankind, and there's not a nation on the earth that God hasn't sent a messenger to with the word. So I used to deep that a lot, and we'll think, well, look at these brothers, they're still naked throwing spears at aeroplanes in the millennium years type of thing. So I was like, did they get the message? But, you know, the book says that.
Well, this is why it's always dedicated to original peoples, you know, because it's about the first teaching, the first peoples, the first cultures, first traditions, which led to shaping the world the way it is. But I want to thank you very much, Goldmark. You know, I've been waiting to get you on for a while, and I feel this has been a powerful conversation.
My pleasure,
the energy was flowing. It was just natural.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so I want to thank you again anyway. This is James Diboe on Discovering Season 5, dedicated still to original peoples, and we are here today. Well, peace out, Goldmark. And I love the suit anyway, Nigerian style.
Man, I rep the Niger Delta today, you know.
All green. Blessings, man. Peace, King.
Peace, my brother.